The British adopted the Lee Enfield in 1895, and it served with British forces until 1957. The SMLE specifically was adopted in 1907, and actually serves not with British forces, but in conflicts around the world even today, which to me is just amazing. In fact, the Lee Enfield design was the last bolt-action rifle design ever issued to standard military forces, and that is the Issapor 308 that's made in India. Actually, a little better steel. I have a video that I did. In fact, I have one of the Issapors, and love that rifle. Extremely accurate. Actually is made with better steel than the traditional because it was made at a much later date. But we're going to take a look at this really classic, epic part of history. Now, the British design just has so many different unusual features. I really like that about the British. They just really have a lot of character with their weapons. And the first thing you're going to notice is this box magazine, which was pretty new when these were designed. In fact, this was a departure from the standard boxed magazine that was integral into the stock, used by the Mausers and a lot of other Springfield designs. But this was actually a departure from the original design. 10 rounds in this detachable box magazine. Now, the magazine wasn't detached in use. They still fed from the top, either one at a time or with 5-round charging clips, or similar to stripper clips, which fit right here in this little crown that goes over the top of the bolt. Here you have your feeding lips right here. One of the distinctions of the Lee Enfield was that it was the fastest bolt-action rifle on record. In fact, in 1914, the Enfield broke a world record in 38 rounds shot at 300 meters by a British officer in a 12-inch plate, accurately. These typically would shoot 20 to 30 rounds per minute, so it was one of the fastest bolt-action rifles in the world. In fact, during World War II, except for the Garand, it was the fastest issued rifle out there. A lot of that has to do with the bolt design. And one of the things we're going to look at, of course, we're going to safety check the weapon, of course. And it is clear. Of course, we have cocked the rifle, so the bolt is cocked. To relieve that, and of course, there's some serrations right here. Grab hold, pull the trigger, just be really careful. You can't do it with the safety engaged. This is the safety on the side, just up here where you can just move forward for fire, bring it back for safe. In fact, the bolt is locked down when it's in safe mode. There were a total of 17 million Lee Enfields produced worldwide. And guys, when these first came into the country as surplus, they were coming in at about $59 a piece, which was phenomenal. And I bought a couple of them, sold them, traded them, just different things. But now these run around the close to $300 mark. According to what it is, you know, different collectability dictates the price. Still, just an excellent rifle. This is actually a really good friend of mine who collects Lee Enfields. And it isn't the .303 caliber, and it just shoots extremely well. Now, much to my personal dismay, I shot all the ammunition that I had at the range, which is no surprise because it was so much fun to shoot. But one of the things I wanted to point out on the .303 is it is a rimmed cartridge, unlike the .30-06 the U.S. used. The Russians also, with the 7.62 by 5.4R, which stands for rimmed, it is a rimmed case, and it just allows for the extractor to grab hold. Now, one of the things about rimmed is when you're putting it down into the magazine, that rim seems to ride. And that's the reason for this cant in the magazine. To release the magazine, right here in front of the trigger, just to press it, the magazine comes out. Really smooth, very easy. But again, they did not use these magazines to reload in and out, which would have really been fast. It was a departure, again, from British doctrine, and they thought that soldiers would lose these magazines. In fact, at one point, they even had a brass chain that attached to the magazine to the rifle to keep you from losing it. I just love this old work. I mean, it's just so well done, so nicely precision made. The magazine, of course, just slides right in and clips into place. Now, you are going to notice this little tab right here. And this is a pretty interesting feature. This is a cutoff, and what this would do is only allow the soldier, he'd have to keep this in place, one round at a time. So you'd fire a round, take your bolt, throw the empty shell out, put another round in. And that's the way these were kept. And the reason for that is because that would keep your magazine full at all times in case you were under a serious attack or an assault. These can be pulled out, and then you can utilize all 10 rounds. Now the cutoff was removed in 1915 when the Mark III was introduced, and then it was reinstated back during World War II up until 1942. So, you know, sometimes doctrine, military doctrine, can be just from tradition and have some kind of strange ideas. But really, thinking about this magazine being full at all times, it keeps it really, it's a good safety feature really on the front lines, especially in that trench warfare, because they never knew when an attack was coming. So single action, pretty much single shot, and then pull your cutoff lever out, and then you have 10 rounds in reserve at all times. But the Mark III not only had the cutoff taken out, it also went to a more simpler sight system. The SMLE sight is actually, you can adjust the windage right here. On the Mark III, they did away with the windage because these were pretty expensive to make. So they started cutting some corners in different areas. And one of the ways also to recognize the SMLE was because of this bull nose, which I really like this. This is for your bayonet lug, and this is for your bayonet ring, and then you have your lug right here. But I just love this front protector on the front of the rifle. Your ears are covered here on the front sight, and of course you have the ears protecting the rear sight. Even have some nice serrations right here on the top. This, just the sight itself, is a work of art. And the range goes out to 2,000 yards, which is really way out of the range for this rifle. But that has a lot to do with the modern doctrine that was going on during the time. Of course, the Enfield also has this barrel band right here between the rear stock and the front stock. And this identifies arsenal marks and when it was made. As you can see, this particular model was made in 1914. It does show the SMLE and has the crown. Also have arsenal marks here, and then you have your safety. Look at the machining on that safety. Now the original version was the MLE, which they called it Emily, and it had a 30.2 inch barrel, which was really extremely long. You think that the rifle is long. This actually has a 25.2 inch barrel, and so the MLE was called Magazine Lee Enfield. The SMLE, which was also affectionately known as SMLE, was the short magazine Lee Enfield. And the SMLE was really a favorite. The Lee Enfield was used in militaries in over 40 countries, so it was a very prolific rifle. Well, and at 17 million produced, that says a lot about the rifle in itself. Of course, in 1957, these were replaced by the L1A1 SAR, which was a British inch version of the metric FAL, and in .308 caliber. And of course, that served with the British forces for a number of years. Excellent rifle in itself, very heavy, very big. But the L42 sniper rifle, which was a modified Lee Enfield, was used up until the 1990s, but it was also in .308 caliber. The SMLE used the brass butt plate, which I really like that touch. These were replaced with steel butt plates with some of the later versions. There's a little trap door right here for your cleaning kit. It's kind of tough to get into. There we go. Cleaning kit just drops right down. Also a brass medallion right here below the swing swivel. And the stock also has arsenal markings. The SMLE weighs 9.5 pounds. You're talking about a heavy rifle. But it's well balanced, and it belies the weight of the rifle. Also, it's 44 inches in total length. That was a time when men were men. I'll tell you what, carrying around one of these things all day, if you weren't a man already, you would be soon. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. I like that, man. Not bad for an old World War II workhorse. The Lee Enfield is a classic piece of history. If you ever get a hold of one, you'll love it. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. One of the distinctions of the Lee Enfield was that it was one of the, this is an SMLE, it's the Mark IV, and the buttstock itself is brass. Now the SMLE version was introduced in 1907, and that stands for short, what does it stand for?
Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America.